How do you attract more of the right people to your business? And more importantly, how do you convert them to paying customers? How do you fill your sales pipeline? The key is compelling content and clear copy. And today, conversion copywriter Betsy Talbot is going to share her secrets on everything you need to know to build that solid pipeline and convert those people to actual revenue. Stay tuned.
Welcome, Betsy, to the Red Slice video series on the blog. We're so happy to have you here to talk about some juicy entrepreneurial wisdom that you have to share, as well as your wheelhouse, which is writing compelling copy and writing effectively. So we are super excited to dig into this today. And for those of you who don't know who Betsy is, she is actually a dear friend of mine and a longtime colleague. And right now, she is at betsytalbot.com, and she is a conversion copywriter. She's been working with business leaders in North America, in the UK, in Australia, and she's been helping businesses and solopreneurs create a steady stream of leads. She uses a proven method of converting those leads into customers, and she also is giving people systems to create a tribe of delighted and raving fans. And a lot of it stems from Betsy's amazing ability to write compelling copy, which is why we call her a conversion copywriter. So Betsy, hi. Is there anything you want to add to that impressive resume that I just talked about?
Well, thank you, Maria. It is lovely to be here. And I would like to say, for every room that I walk into in the future, I would like to have you go in before me and announce me in
with
this
rose
way.
petals. Yes.
I feel very important now. Great. Thank you.
Well, great. And for those of you who have been longtime followers of Red Slice, you may know Betsy from way back in another iteration of her business, which was Married with Luggage and then An Uncluttered Life. And now she's just at betsytalbot.com. She's just owning her own brand and doing the work that she's doing, helping clients globally. So wanted to dig into a few things around her entrepreneurial success. So Betsy, you've been at this entrepreneurial thing for a long time now in different iterations, as many of the most successful people I know have. So can you talk a little bit about this particular business that you're doing right now? It is absolutely kicking ass and thriving. And I know it was not that long ago that you started down this journey, even though you've been a writer for a long time, of specifically conversion copywriting and turning leads into sales. So can you talk about maybe some of the best practices that you did to rev up this business so that it is as successful as it is today? And although it seems like overnight to a lot of us, I'm sure it wasn't overnight for you. So can you share any wisdom around how you do that, how you did that with this business?
I can tell you a lot about that. And I will tell you that it's funny that you said that it actually was fairly overnight, but it's only because of the experience that I had before that it was overnight. And so to get into the story, I'll briefly tell you the business that we had before, An Uncluttered Life, was a personal growth website and memberships community. And I ran it with my husband and we loved it. And we had some great clients, students. It was wonderful. I loved doing it. However, it was not earning the income that we needed. And so we made a hard decision and said, in 1 year, if we are not hitting these metrics, we are going to shut the business down. Doesn't matter that we feel good about it. Doesn't matter that,
it brings us joy. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it is causing us stress and we are working too many hours and we're not making enough money and we're digging into our savings to live. It's not worth it. And so a year came and we didn't hit those metrics. So we shut the business down and had to start thinking, okay, what's next? What's next? I mean, we knew this was coming, obviously. We had planned it for a year before. And so this time I decided I wasn't going to go on the hope and growth strategy, which is what I had been using before. And I'm sure some of the people that are listening now are familiar with this. I will build something that
they will come.
That people have told me that they need, that I've looked around and I see that people need. I will build it, they will buy it, and we'll all be happy.
Right.
Well, as you know, that doesn't always happen because what people need is not always what they will pay for. And what you think they need is not always what they need. And how you deliver it is not always, I mean, there are so many factors that go into that. So what I did is I decided that in all the time that I had been marketing my business, I had been helping other people, other colleagues with their businesses, and people were really resonating over some of the systems that we were using and some of the writing that we were using. And so I thought, I wonder if there's a way for me to do this thing that I loved with my previous businesses, and have other people pay me to do it. So this time, instead of hoping and building and waiting, I actually just stuck my shingle out there and started recruiting business. I went first to a job site and I just posted a profile to see if anyone would hire me. And guess what they did? And I learned a little bit from doing a few of those jobs and kept building and building and building, and finally, got my own systems in place, started recruiting my own clients. And I honestly was making money from week one. Week one. Yeah. And it was such a revelation to me. And I would have never gotten there had I not had the experiences. I don't want to call them failures necessarily, I guess.
Yeah. Also,
but
what's so interesting about that too is that you've established very quickly a brand for yourself as being a conversion copywriting expert. So what I've seen, from my vantage point is you've invested in a ton of training in addition to your skill and your experience that you already have. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like what enabled you to make that decision to make those investments in the beginning and create a brand so quickly where that was what you were known for?
Well, what I've made the mistake of doing in the past is DIYing myself to death and learning everything and researching. And I thought, you know what? I have to fast track some of this stuff. I can't give myself 10 years to learn how to do all of this. And hope that I get, what I need. So I invested where I knew it would pay off. I told myself, if I invest in a training, it has to pay off within 6 weeks. If I'm not using it to do an actual client job within 6 weeks, I'm not going to pay for it. It has to enhance my business in some way. And so that kept me from going down the road of learning all the time, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of doing. You feel like you're taking action on your business when all you're doing is learning all the time. And again, there's a place for learning, but you have to quickly follow it with action to grow your business. And I think that's what really got me going. And, because I was quickly implementing this, the people that were coaching and mentoring me took notice of me. They sent me referrals.
Nice.
I started making that because people started to see me as someone who took action. I learned something, I do it. I have a lot more experience than people who have been doing it a lot longer than me because I have a lot more business, a lot more projects. And
real world.
That makes a huge difference. Something that someone else may only do 3 times a year, I do 3 times a week.
And so how did you deal this? I get this as a common question from folks that I'm helping where they're launching their businesses is how did you get past that first hurdle? Like when you were listing your business on that job site and people said, well, let me see your work, or what other work have you done in this vein? How did you get past that you hadn't been doing this on your own for very long? Did you just reframe your past experiences? What advice can you give people on that?
So the best advice I can give you for pretty much any aspect of your business is to lead the client. In every interaction, I assumed that I was the expert and I assumed that I was there to solve their problem. So when someone said, this is the thing I need, instead of writing back saying, oh, you should hire me, here's all my experience, I wrote back and said, that sounds like a really interesting project. If one way to look at it is to do X, Y, and Z, though this other thing might work too. If we can spend about 15 minutes on the phone talking, we can suss out which one might be the best thing for you, and then we can move forward. I just talked as if I assumed the job was mine and that I had the information. And I will tell you, I almost never get asked for portfolio
reference checks.
Never. I mean, I have great ones now, but I mean, like no one ever asked for that because I always act as if I'm the expert, because this is the thing. It's not you being a jerk when you do that or being haughty or anything. People are looking for a solution and they want to be confident in putting their trust in you. And so if you can do that, if you can make them feel good about this decision, obviously I wouldn't say that if I didn't know how to do what they wanted me to do. if you want me to decorate your house or something like that, you should probably call someone else. But I mean, I can help you with writing. Right. So I think that's the key, is leading that conversation and talking about how you can help them, as opposed to, are you good enough to get the job?
Exactly.
Assume you're good enough. Assume you're good enough.
And take that consultative approach. I mean, no matter what you're doing, it's giving that value in the first interaction with them, of giving them something they hadn't thought of before, or asking a provocative question that leads them to the right path, whether you can ultimately help them or not. I think you're really good at doing that, in terms of, like you said, if it's something that's out of your wheelhouse, you're going to refer that business out, but then they still see you as a trusted partner. And what
you said also, though, about talking about your past experience is also a good way of doing that. The past, and I could talk about, a campaign that I'd done for myself, for my own business.
Right.
So certainly you can use your past experience. Chris Brogan calls that, what does he call it? Transferring bravery. Like, if you did another scary kind of thing, you just apply it to the current thing you're in.
Absolutely. Well, and you had that experience of cranking out content for many years for your own businesses. And that was never the issue, right? A lot of it was just converting to sales, but really for you guys, it was, you cranked out so much excellent content, and that was something you naturally could do for other people, at least initially. Once you started learning these systems of how to take that content and then convert it, then you're able to sort of offer that as your next iteration of Betsy Talbot. So I love that. So before we dig into, because again, content and writing was such a key piece, and has been such a key piece of your success in many of your businesses, and especially in this business now, obviously. But before we go into that, can you talk a little bit, your journey about the letting go of the other business is so profound to me. And so, there's so many people that give in too early, or they give in without doing the proper training or the proper work or setting up their systems. So what was your philosophy around that? You mentioned earlier that you guys had sort of revenue targets, and if you didn't meet them, you were going to close down the business. But what was the mental shift, or the psychological shift for you, of saying that this is not, even though I might love doing this might not be the right path for us?
Well, I started examining what I really loved about it. And what I really loved about it was the independence of being my own boss. I love that. I really did. I love the ability to be able to spend a lot of my time writing. So I just kept thinking about the things that I loved. And then I realized it wasn't necessarily the business that I loved. It was aspects of the business that I loved. And then because we had the 1-year timeline, and we had the specific metrics, it wasn't just a revenue metric. It was several things related to our personal life too. So, are we working 50 hours a week on this? Because when it's the two of you doing it, I mean, you talk about work all the time.
Right.
And I started thinking, when was the last non-work conversation we had?
Right.
And so there are other metrics that were maybe not as hard and fast as revenue or sales or whatever. But over that year, I was able to really analyze things with a more logical mind. And, while it sounds like I'm sort of talking myself out of a passion project, I think what I was really doing was shining a light on what I was really passionate about.
Right.
All that time I thought it was my business, but it wasn't. It wasn't my business. I will say the one thing that I missed, we had a podcast that was pretty popular. And
I loved your podcast. Yeah.
Loved doing the podcast. And one of these days, there's nothing to prevent my husband and I from going back and doing another podcast.
No.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, we live in a cave house now. I'm sure we could think of weird things to talk about that people might be interested in. I don't know.
Right.
But it would just be a fun thing then. There's nothing preventing me from doing that. But when it comes to making money, I work 4 days a week now. I mean, and I make a lot more money than I did before. And we have a life that we enjoy, and the work that I do is fulfilling. So again, I think it was that year of watching those metrics every month and thinking, oh, well, we're not hitting the mark there. And it allowed me to expand and start thinking about, what's going to be next.
And let go, like grieve a little bit, to let go of something that, rather than just like, oh, next week, I'm just going to give it up. You gave yourself that runway to say, okay, now I'm in this reflective mode for this year, to look at if this is really something I want to keep doing and keep trying to make work. Or like you said, take the aspects of what you enjoy doing and turning that into something else, which I think is key. You know, it's really about looking at what parts of it do you enjoy. You know, the whole follow your bliss thing sounds great, like on a coffee mug, but it's really about like, what is the bliss? Like, what is the part of it that you actually are really drawn to and attracted to? And can you turn that into something that actually funds your life and makes you money? So,
well, and that's the thing where I think I might differ from a lot of people. I actually don't want to follow my bliss and make money that way. I want to follow my bliss in my personal life, and I want to enjoy my work, but I don't want my work to be my bliss. You know, I want to hike around the world. I want to go to dance class. I want to see my friends. I want to travel. I mean, those are the things that I want to do.
And you don't have to monetize those things.
I don't have to monetize. You don't have to. If you can find a way to do that, that is absolutely great. But I think it's a high bar for most people to meet, and to find a job that you enjoy doing, a business you enjoy running, and then have a great life outside of it. I mean, what more can you want?
I know. And I think that's a mistake a lot of passion businesses make, whether it's like jewelry design or baking or whatever. They think they're so convinced by all these other people saying like, you should start selling those, or you should open a business where you're doing that. And then all of a sudden they realize that the joy of doing the thing that they loved doing gets sucked out of them, because they actually have to run a business and not just bake cupcakes all day. They have to do the books. They have to like manage staff. They have to deal with rent. They have to, you know, so it's always that fine dance of understanding that you can have your interests and your passions. You don't have to have that fund your life.
Right.
You know,
years ago, after we got married, we moved, and I was looking for a different job, thinking of, you know, what to do. And there was a position in the wine industry, and I thought, ooh, I could be like in wine distributing, and how glamorous does that sound? And my husband said, if you get into that, you will learn to hate wine. And I thought, well, we can't have that happen.
No, exactly. It's like working at, you know, well, and some people enjoy this, but it's like working at Disney World. Like the magic fades because you're sort of like, oh, this is the grind behind.
You see the nitty gritty.
You see the nitty gritty and you're like, oh. So let's switch gears a little bit, because so much, again, of your success was really about content creation, writing compelling content. Your business now is all about creating content that converts to sales and attracts audiences and creates a tribe of raving fans. So let's talk a little bit about DIY versus hiring an experienced copywriter. And just so everyone is clear, even though I love writing, I want to hire copywriters at certain points in my business because I'm too close to it. I run out of ideas. I want that objective third party. But what mistakes do you see DIY writers making with their content, be it blog posts or social media or even an email sales funnel that they might create?
Well, first of all, I do think that every business owner should be able to write about their business, because you have to tell somebody what you do and how you do it and who you serve. And if you can't clearly tell that to someone else, even then you're in trouble.
You're done.
So even, you know, you should be able to talk about your business, but there are some mistakes. And I think one of the first ones is not writing anything. There are people who just really, they are just the wallflower of the business world, and they have a little business card that they might hand out every now and then, but they don't put anything out. They don't send any emails. They don't make any social media posts. They don't do anything. I guess they are expecting to be found at the end of the rainbow or something. But I mean, nobody is going to find it. So that obviously is mistake number one.
Right.
The second one is people try to write to an audience. And I see this all the time when they act as if they're standing on a stage, and the way that they're presenting the information is to all of, when they don't realize that the people who are reading it are individuals.
Right.
And so if you think about your ideal type of customer, you know, if you create an avatar or a persona, you know, this image of your ideal customer, Elaine or Frank or Freddie, or
which, you know, I'm a huge proponent of doing. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, then when you write, you're just writing to Elaine or Freddie or Frank or whoever this is. And it takes a lot of the pressure off, and you don't try to be all things to all people. It will greatly simplify your writing, greatly simplify if you just think of that one person instead of the masses.
Well, and you know, it's funny. I worked in advertising many, many years ago. And one of the best pieces of advice I got from a creative director there, who he was a creative director and designed, but he also had a copywriting background, was when you write an ad, you don't write an ad exactly like you said, standing on a stage talking to a crowd of people. You write it for the one person that's reading the magazine in the beauty salon, at the airport, on the plane, because that's who you're talking to. You're not shouting with a megaphone. You're having an intimate conversation. And I've never forgotten that advice, and try to write my content that way. But I think that's the thread that you see with some of the most successful people with their content, is that it almost feels like when you're consuming it, that they're talking right to you.
Well, and that's the key, is that you're trying to connect to your target audience, and you're trying to think about what they want to hear and what they need and what their problems are. And when you put yourself in that mindset, it allows you to see things in a different way.
Absolutely.
Which kind of leads to the next thing that people get wrong. And this one's a really important one. And that is not to create people that don't create a clear call to action. If you don't tell people what to do, they won't do anything.
Right.
You don't say, leave a comment, click here to download, book your session here, whatever your call to action is. If you don't tell people what to do, they're not going to do it. People can't read your mind, and they shouldn't have to. You know your business inside and out. You know your processes inside and out. But if you don't tell people, they simply will not know what to do. And you should have a call to action on every piece of content that you write.
Love that. Yeah. And that's actually something with my clients, what I work on from a brand perspective, obviously not just their website, but when we're talking about some of the pieces of the website copy that I write for them as part of my consulting engagement, there's always a call to action on that. And I make them sort of go back and audit their website. Does every page on your website have a purpose? What do you want them to do after they're done reading this page? Where do you want them to go? Where do you want them to click? Do you want them to call? What is it that you want them to do? It shouldn't just be like words on the screen. It should always be leading somewhere and leading them somewhere.
Super clear, not cutesy, not clever, really clear. Step 1, step 2, step 3. If people don't understand your process, they don't understand how you can help them, what your service or product looks like, how it operates, how to get in touch with you. They're not going to do the extra work to figure it out.
Exactly. And so what can people do to make writing easier? So there's a few different camps, right? There's the people who are like, oh my God, I hate writing with the hot passion of 1,000 suns. And then there's people that are like, I love writing, but I don't know how to get all this content done. So what advice do you have for people about getting the writing part easier?
Okay. Well, first is we talked about a little bit earlier, which was creating this avatar. You're writing to this one person all the time, so that it makes it easier for you to think, okay, what does Freddie want to know about this thing? And that helps you clarify your thought process as you're getting through. Let's see. The other thing to make it easier is to know what the purpose of your content is. Why are you doing this thing? If you're just putting something out to, I don't know, to be funny, if it's funny in relation to getting to know your people and to create that engagement, like on social media, that's fine. But one thing that I did during our, when we had Married with Luggage, we were traveling in Ecuador, and I put a post up, and it was about 10 things to do in Quito, Ecuador, or something like that. It became one of the most popular posts on my website because every child in every school who ever researched about Ecuador in their geography class was posting on I got contacted by teachers and students constantly about that. And obviously that is not my core business.
Right.
And so you have to think about what you're putting out there and why and how you're positioning the information, because we all have tons of interesting things to say and things that we can talk about and current events and all that. But if it isn't somehow related to your business, it's not going to serve you to put it on your website.
Right. Well, and it becomes an ego trip at that point. Like you have to,
really does.
It's fine to talk about, you know, and one of my best little blog tricks for my clients is, you know, tie your work into like pop culture or current event, but make it relevant. So one of my most popular blog posts was like the business lessons I learned from James Bond's Skyfall, you know, which is, it's about a movie I had just seen, and that was interesting and entertaining, but I tied it back to what my core value proposition was. So instead of just, you know, if you're going to post those pictures of your morning latte, you know, all the time on Instagram, can you tie that back to your business somehow? You know,
well, I wrote a post for Copyblogger on Magic Mike, and it was stories of persuasion, and I still get business from that. That was years ago.
That was such a great post. Oh my gosh. I should link to that in the show notes.
The other thing I would say is, just really quickly, is make sure
Mm-hmm.
that you know how to document your solution. If you can't say how you help people, like specifically show them step by step, you can't just say, I'll help you find your passion. Nobody knows what that means.
Right.
You have to tell them, through a 90-minute strategy session, we will come up with blah, 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 and blah.
Mm-hmm.
Or in my workout program, you will lose 20 pounds in what, I mean,
And
you
this is
have to,
how,
this is how, 3 times a week, we're going to do this. You
Mm-hmm.
have to tell people exactly how your product or service works.
Mm-hmm.
They do not know otherwise.
Right. And that brings up a really good point, because a lot of what I talk about with my brand clients is to lead with benefits, right? Hook their interest with what the offering will eventually do for them. Then once they're interested, now's the time you have to tell them how you do that and what exactly you do, right? So that now they're interested, that this is meeting my need, this is solving my problem. Now I'm interested, I'm going to click on the web page. I have to now see, can you back that up? Can you tell me exactly how you're going to help me lose weight or feel healthier or increase my sales or whatever it is? Showing them the how is that next step that has to be there. So sometimes people get on the other side of the spectrum where they're all benefits and no action. So, it's about balancing that, hook them with benefits, hook them with speaking to their needs, but then explain exactly how you make that happen so they can have faith in your credibility and trust you that you're going to take them on that journey.
Well, one thing that I find when people feel fuzzy about writing and they have a challenge, it's because they don't know their company well enough. And if you don't know the specifics, like, of course you know your company. I'm not saying you don't know what you're doing. I'm saying you don't know the ins and outs of how your process for onboarding a client, your process for getting payment, your process for how your sessions run, or whatever it is that you do. If you are not really knowledgeable about that, it makes it very hard for you to write. If you're winging it a bit, which a lot of people do in the beginning, I've been guilty of that in the past too, it makes it challenging to write for your business. So the more clear you can be about what you do, who you serve, and how you do it, the easier it will be for you to write, no matter what you're writing.
Absolutely. And easier to tie it into all that fun stuff you want to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah. Strippers and spies and whatever else.
Exactly. Strippers and spies. That's our next virtual course together. Strippers and spies. How to create great branded content. Okay. So let's talk about this, because this is all fantastic advice, and the hesitancy that I get from a lot of clients or students is, but this feels sleazy to me. It feels sleazy to be this direct, or to be this prescriptive, or to sell and promote my services, which always makes me laugh, because I'm like, if you're not promoting it, who do you think is, So talk to us about how you get your clients beyond that idea of feeling like sleazy or fake or pushy when they're trying to sell their services or their product.
Well, if you're feeling sleazy or fake or pushy, then you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is the thing. I prefer educating over selling, and I prefer offering over asking. So if you educate the person on how you can help them, it is a logical conclusion to that. I can help you. Would you like me to help you? Here's the buy button. Here's the booking button, whatever that thing is. You have just educated them on how you can help, and then you're making the offer. You're not saying, please buy from me.
Right.
Right. You're not being desperate.
Right.
When you educate, you're simply connecting their pain point to your solution. And so many people neglect to do that. They just say, this fixes all problems, or it helps everyone. But if you can describe, you wake up in the morning and this is you step on the floor and you have pain in your foot. You don't know what it is. It keeps you, you start your day off in a bad mood because you can't you really build on that. And then you talk about what the problem is and how you solve it. And you're a podiatrist, and I don't know what the solution is. But you describe the whole thing.
Right.
When you do it that way, that's not sleazy. That's not the, supplies limited, order now.
Right. Totally.
So that's the whole thing is when you really understand your offer, you understand who you're serving and what problem you solve, and you educate them on why your solution could be the right one for them. And then you just make the offer. That's all you're doing, educating and offering. That's it.
Absolutely.
Not sleazy at all.
And I remember writing a blog post a year or so ago that it's not a sales pitch, it's a conversation.
It is.
So So taking it as that and doing maybe a lot more listening up front of like, well, tell me about your problem and what are you dealing with? And well, I've seen some people approach it this way. Some people approach it that way. This is how some of my clients have gotten past that. You build up that rapport and that conversation in a consultative way to the point that they go, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. And they might even go, okay, so can I hire you? But give them the opportunity, give them that push that you can hire me. I do, this is how my products and my services are structured. And this is how I've helped other people like you in the past. So, it's more of a conversation. It's more of a like, tell me about that. And let me share some things that have worked for other people. Versus like you're saying, buy now, buy for me, just trust me, that whole thing. Can you talk a little?
You're talking to Freddie or Elaine or whoever.
Exactly.
You're not trying to sell from this big stage. You're just talking to one person who says, hey, I've got squirrels in my attic. And you're like, hey, I know how to fix that.
I can fix that for you. Exactly. And so talk a little bit about offer versus ask, because I think that's a really intriguing concept.
So if you're asking, buy for me, you should be my coaching client. You should sign up for my fitness program. You should buy my book. That is all about you. And you are asking, you're please, please, please. And it feels kind of desperate and sleazy because it is kind of desperate and sleazy. But if you're offering, you're saying, hey, I just wrote this book. It's all about this thing that I know you're interested in. If you'd like it, here it is. If you are interested in our Saturday workout class at the park with all the other new moms, we have a one free visit. If you want to come try it out on Saturday, love to have you there. You're offering something of value. And that's the thing you have to remember. What you have is valuable to the right people. It won't be valuable to everyone. Absolutely. Right. And you just accept that. But for the people that it is valuable for, they will appreciate you educating and then making a sensible offer, which they are free to, accept
or decline. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about the writing that we do when we're doing outreach, right? We're trying to send an email to an influencer. We're trying to pitch the media on some news that we have and hope that we get coverage. Or we are trying to reach out potentially a warm or a cold prospect for the first time, where we're doing active solicitation, not just putting something up on our website or setting up an autoresponder email series. What are some mistakes people make? And then what are some tips to help them avoid those mistakes so that they can feel more comfortable doing this? Because I think this is something like active prospecting is something that people are very hesitant of doing for the reasons we've discussed throughout, which is that I feel sleazy, I feel pushy, I can't really communicate what I do clearly enough, all that variety. So what mistakes do you see them making when they're trying to proactively reach out to people?
Well, this is a great question. And this is something that I love because I am not a person who was ever a big fan of cold outreach. And now it is one of my specialties. And I actually do cold outreach for a big company in London, and I do a lot of it. So I have gotten comfortable with it, over the years.
Right.
So the thing that I see is that people are very me focused. I am a speaker and I have these topics and I'm trying to build my base and I want this and you get an email like that and you just think, and of course being a podcast host for 3 years, I got lots of pitches.
Totally.
And I still do. I'm on some kind of list. I still get them every week. And people, they pitch themselves like crazy.
Totally.
If you want to connect to someone else and you want them to do something for you or give you a chance or get your foot in the door or whatever, you have to make the benefit about them. So I would say, what is the first thing you can do? First, you should have a little piece of news or information about them to show that you are not just some spammer sending something out.
Right.
Hey, Maria, I saw that you have a new program on how to delight customers. Boy, wouldn't it be nice if every company did that in the world today? Wouldn't that be such a nice thing? I'm writing because, I'm Betsy Talbot, and I'm writing because I speak to groups of business groups about the power of copywriting. And I was wondering if you would like me to come and speak to your group. I can offer these things for your audience. I've made the entire thing about you and making you look good and giving things to your audience. Now, obviously, I get a benefit because I'm getting to be here to speak to you today. But something like that, when you focus on the person that you're emailing and how you can make their life better or easier or make them look good to their boss or audience, that is how you focus on getting your foot in the door in a cold email.
Well, it's so funny because, as you know, I was a marketing executive for many years for Silicon Valley companies. And this is just a running joke with the quality of bad prospecting emails that you get in those positions, ranging from presumptuous to arrogant to you clearly don't know anything about my business, you know? And so, and a lot of it was the like, I want to talk to you. The worst ones were the ones that thought being short and sweet was the way to go. And it was like, "Dear Maria, would love to sit down with you and talk about what your goals are for the coming year. Please schedule a time here." It's like,
yes, I'm going to share my goals with a random stranger.
Well, and my goals around what? Like what specifically, what goals of mine could you help me with? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or it's where, you know, information is more publicly available. First of all, they're prospecting to someone in the completely wrong industry. I get those now as a solopreneur. I get a ton of website inquiries where they're trying to sell me things thinking I'm like a 1,000-person company. I'm like, clearly you haven't gone to my website, or you have because you filled out the form, but you didn't actually look at anything on the website. So it's doing that due diligence of like, hey, I saw an article that talked about where you mentioned one of your goals for your company was this, or I know that you are a solopreneur and you're doing everything yourself, and here's an interesting article that might help you or something. But again, it's that whole, it's not about you. It's about me, but not just, I'm going to talk to you about my goals and my needs to benefit you as the salesperson, right? Because that's clearly what that is. I got an email several years ago for a technology product. And I know I wrote a blog post on it. I'll have to put the link in the notes that go with this video. But I wrote back to them to say it was one of the best sales emails I had ever received. And that and again, I was not quite the right target for them, but it was so entertaining. It was so like spot on. I don't know, there was just something about it that wasn't arrogant and it wasn't presumptuous. It was approachable. You know, it was short enough that it was valuing my time. You know, it's not a treatise that they're sending
5
me.
sentences. That's my rule. 5 sentences.
I know. And, you know, an interesting vignette I just want to share is, as you know, when I wrote Branding Basics for Small Business, that was my first book I'd ever published. And I was working with a really small publisher, so it was up to me to get the testimonials for it. And I just went big and I approached sort of celebrities in marketing and business. But my whole approach with those emails was to talk about something that I liked about their work. And so, and not that I was being like humble and apologetic, but, you know, I've been working on a book that you might be interested in. You know, it would be such an honor if you have the time to review it and let me know what you think. And if you dig it, then it would be great to get a testimonial. If not, I'd love to send you a free copy anyway, just as a gift for the work that you've done. And I got like 90% hit rate on the people that I asked for those testimonials. So
when you make it easy for people, when you tell them exactly what you want, going back to our initial talk, call to action. What is your call to action for these people? What is the specific thing?
Tell me what you want.
I would like to have a testimonial from you, or I would like you to, I would like to do a guest post for you, or whatever it is that you're looking for. You have to be very specific, and again, make the email short enough if you need to.
But not right at the beginning, not just the like, "Dear Betsy,
no.
I want to write for your blog." You know what I mean?
No, but you can also have, and this is another thing that I advocate, is that you have special pages, hidden pages on your website that give the information that you need for these specific things. So if you're constantly asking to do guest posts, you might have a page on your site that talks about everything you do for a guest post. If you're a speaker, you may want to have something, these are the topics I speak about. This is generally what you can expect. That kind of a thing that you can link to that makes it really easy for them to check more about.
If they're interested
about you. If they're interested, make it everything you do should make it ridiculously easy for people to say yes to what you want. You have to do the work to make that happen. And for people who say, "Oh, that doesn't work," I'll tell you a little story. I had a coaching client who I was helping him do a lot of his DIY stuff, and he did not want to do personalized cold outreach. He wanted to do a form. And I said, "I'll tell you what, we'll do an A/B test. You can send out, 50 of these, general whatever, and then do 50 of these that are personalized." And they're very a little bit personalized, not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He spent twice as much time on the ones that he had to personalize, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up getting 7 times the response rate.
Mm-hmm. Because he did his
And
homework.
I said, so you tell me, was it worth it to you? You got one response out of the cold that didn't pan out.
Right.
And then here you got, 7 times more leads to that from this campaign that you sent. So you tell me, is it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Multiply that by your customer value, lifetime value.
Right. And I think that's an important lesson there, that it sometimes seems like not putting in the effort is the easy way. It seems like, okay, I'm going to hesitantly do this because I'm afraid, or I don't want the rejection or whatever. You're going to waste so much more time and not get return doing it the easy way. That kind of keeps you safe and keeps you like, oh, it's not that extra effort that I had to put into those personalized emails, versus the ROI that you get when you maybe target less, but do it better. Do it.
And you'll be surprised at the responses that you get. Like the response you gave to the email that you got that was done so well. You're just so excited to get something like that.
Right.
So it definitely pays off. And after you send the first one is the heart palpitations, like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that.
Right.
But the more you send, the easier it gets.
Right.
And you start realizing that you don't get so obsessed about every single potential deal, because you have a ton of them working. You're talking to lots of people, so you don't have everything riding on one response. It just makes it a lot easier to run your business when you have a lot of options.
Right. Absolutely. Well, this has been awesome advice for everybody around just entrepreneurial wisdom and also about copywriting. So how can people get in touch with you? Let's give them a call to action for you.
All right. Your call to action.
Yes.
Go visit betsytalbot.com/pocket. And that's where you will find a special program that I have for solopreneurs. It is a monthly program where you get trained on a template that will be valuable for your business, such as emailing influencers that we just talked about. You will get training on how to use that. And best of all, you get email access to me, and you get me to review one piece of content every single month you're in the program. And it is no commitment, month to month. Use it as long as you want. And it is available for you at betsytalbot.com/pocket.
Great. And that's the Pocket Copywriter Program. I love that. And
Copywriter Program.
We will put the links to that below this video. But can you give us one last piece of parting advice around people that might be scared to do their own writing or do their own prospecting, or that feel like, oh, I don't know if this is really going to work for me to put a system in place. It feels kind of inauthentic. What would be sort of your last gem that you would love to share with them?
Well, I would say, regarding systems, automation shows that you care enough to make sure that it happens. So there's that. And I'm a big fan of automation. The second is that you are going to screw up. You're absolutely going to screw up, and you should be okay with that. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to do messages that don't land. I'm a professional at this, and not everything that I do lands in the way that I want it to every time. That's life. And so once you remove the bar of perfection from your life, you will get better, and you will learn more and more about this, and you will become so much more comfortable writing for your business. This is absolutely something that you can do. So go screw up and achieve.
And then call Betsy. No, but I think that's such an important thing about remembering this is about, there's no such thing as a 100% conversion rate. Like, it just doesn't exist. This is why they call it a sales funnel. You got to take more chances and reach more people and try to get as many people into your sales pipeline as possible. And then from that, your actual sales will come out. But the more you put in, the more that will come out. So again, it's that whole, people get upset about rates all the time. My open rate on my emails is only 45%. That's actually awesome. Like, nobody has a 100% open rate on their emails or a 100% close rate on their sales funnel. So it's getting used to that, getting comfortable with that imperfection, and then doing whatever you can to increase that number. So I love that. Thanks for that great advice. Thanks for spending your time with us today. We really appreciate it. And everybody go check out BetsyTalbot.com. All the links will be below this video. And thanks so much, Betsy.
Thank you. I always love talking with you.